You're watching a special, the Everest edition of the Hong Kong Racing Show. Yes, after what seems like a months-long build-up, Ka Ying Rising is now ready to tackle the world's richest race on turf at Royal Randwick in Sydney, Australia. Two fantastic special guests coming up to join us this week to discuss all that. We'll cross to Sydney and catch up with race caller Darren Flindell, who, of course, used to call in Hong Kong for many years as well. And we're also going to catch up with Sam Nati, the head of Commingling at the Hong Kong Jockey Club, to find out whether he expects this to be a world pool record. A lot of wagering interest in this race. But first, time to welcome in my regular co-pilot, Alex Evers. And Alex, how pumped are you for the Everest on Friday night, North American time?
Super excited. We'll hear Sweet Caroline playing, and we'll see if the world's best sprinter, the highest rated horse via time form, if he can pull off his first overseas expedition. But the buildup has been incredible. It's been since last summer with the preps, and then the race with 135 pounds, and now the trial and the travel, and now this alleged rumor about him being unsound and prices being pushed up. It sounds like the American stock market, Brownie. It sounds like we're fudding information to pump some prices for some other people. But it's going to be cinema absolutely out there. And if the weather stays good and, hopefully everyone gets home safe, but it's going to be really fun to see what the horse can do out in Australia with Zach Purton, the legend, returning home.
Yeah, absolutely. He rode the last winner of the night on Wednesday at Happy Valley. So let's hope he can continue that winning form as he flies down to Australia on, I think he gets in on Friday, has the Friday night, and then the races on the Saturday at Royal Randwick. No doubt you've seen a few clips since the trial that we discussed last week. Alex, have you liked what you've seen about Ka Ying Rising?
Yeah, he's looked incredible. He's looked like, to me, from the videos that I've seen, he looks like he's traveling just as well as he travels over the Sha Tin dirt on the turf course there. And looks like all systems are going. You couldn't have a better team to prep this horse and put him in the right spot here to win. And look, a $20 million sprint race, 1,200 meters for $20 million. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. The weather looks fantastic. They have had a pretty much fine conditions all week, and I think they're expecting a pretty firm deck as well at Randwick on Saturday. So that's really good. And he's also drawn very well in post position 7, which should give Zach plenty of options. A little bit of speed on his outside and a little bit of speed on his inside as well. Alex, as I mentioned, we've got a couple of guests joining us on this show, which I'm really excited about. We're going to be catching up with Sam Nati from the Hong Kong Jockey Club shortly to talk all things World Pool and the Everest. But firstly, I caught up with the former voice of Sha Tin, who's now, of course, calling all of the big races in Sydney. Here's Darren Flindell. Well, very excited to be joined by the man who has the responsibility of calling the world's richest race on turf this weekend, Sydney's #1 race caller and former Hong Kong caller, Darren Flindell. How are things, Darren?
Yeah, it's all good down here, Andrew. I'm pleased to report we've got an immaculate week of weather, so rain should not be an issue on the big day. And as you mentioned, being a ex-commentator from Hong Kong, certainly showing special interest in the Hong Kong champ Ka Ying Rising, which has just created an amazing buzz here in Sydney. It's all everyone's been talking about for the last few weeks, particularly after its barrier trial last Tuesday week.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, it's not just in Australia that people have been talking about that barrier trial and this Everest. It's really all around the world. I was catching up with a former jockey that you'd know from Hong Kong, Umberto Rispoli at Santa Anita on the weekend, and him and a couple of the others were talking about the barrier trial. So this race has really captured the imagination of the entire racing world, hasn't it?
Well, it really has, because there hasn't been too many foreign horses that have come down for the Everest. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, there's not much point. One thing Australians are good at is producing sprinters, thoroughbred sprinters. We really do excel in that department. So there's never really been a need to send too many sprinters down. One did come from the US several years ago, and Japan. They're probably sort of slightly on an equal par, the Japanese sprinters, but Ka Ying Rising was such an amazing record. He's only been beaten twice, and that was very early in his career. And those defeats were in photo finishes as well. So a record of 14 out of 16 is very imposing. And he's been an odds-on favourite pretty much all the way through when markets got serious about betting on the race.
Yeah, you must still keep an eye on the races in Hong Kong after your time spent calling there. When did Ka Ying Rising first sort of come on your radar, and how impressed have you been following his career?
Yeah, it probably goes back over almost 12 months, say 13 months, when he won first up in the previous season. And
Yeah.
when horses are winning and you see the dividend there $1.10, you think, boy, well, this must be all right. And then start after start, it's always going out at almost unbackable odds. I paid particular attention to his run in the Chief Executives Cup when resuming at Sha Tin, and you could
Mm.
see on social media they had a lot of rain early in the day and at an early stage of the meeting. And I thought, oh, this will be interesting to see how he handles a rain affected track. But I see the official rating was still good by the time they got to the main race, because Sha Tin does drain exceptionally well. I've never seen anything like that there at Sha Tin. But there was
Mm.
some moisture in the track, there's no doubt about that. And still, it was able to run a time below 1:08. And that's the thing with this horse. When you go through and look at his winning times, he's just consistently so fast and he does it so easily. That's why
Mm.
it's going to be such a big job for the Australian sprinters, A, just to keep up with him. And when he explodes at the 200 metres, can anything be giving him a start and beat him? That's the big question that'll be answered on Saturday.
Yeah, and post seven for him seems ideal. Gives
Hmm.
Zach a couple of options, bit of speed on his outside with overpass, inside with Marzu. How do you see the race being run? What do you think Zach will elect to do?
I think Marzu from barrier 2 will bounce out.
Yeah.
Overpass will bounce out. I reckon they'll probably hand up on Marzu because they know that Overpass will just attack. So I think Overpass will cross Marzu, and I think Zach Purton will come across, and he'll sit probably at the quarters of the leader Overpass. And there's a good chance that Briasa, who's drawn barrier 10, so he's directly on the outside of Overpass, he could end up with the run of the race, one out, one back.
Mm. Okay.
Now, um, of those in the market, Jimmy Starr, this was the only horse I was worried about from the barrier draw. I thought barrier draw is critical for him. He's drawn 11. That's a shocking draw for him because he doesn't have much speed. And there's all likelihood that Jimmy Starr, who's about the third pick in the betting, will be last turning for home.
Right. Well, yeah, and he might be spotting them too bigger sort of lead, especially if we get a fast deck, as you mentioned, with a nice forecast this week. Are we looking at sort of a good track? Are we on Saturday?
Yes, yeah, unless there's any surprise rain. The
Yeah.
forecast is suggesting, say, 30% rain on Friday. And if that's the case, it's a very warm week. So that would just save the club for doing any irrigation. So if there was no rain, they would irrigate probably 3 to 4 mils in any case. So no,
Yeah.
prepare for a good track. I think this will be the ninth running. So we've had 8, and half of them have been on pretty quick going.
Okay. If Ka Ying Rising is to be beaten on Saturday, Darren, what would
Mm-hmm.
have to happen in your mind?
If it becomes too agitated pre-race, could be an
Okay.
issue. That was one
Yeah.
thing that stood out from the barrier trial. When he
Mm.
came out, he sort of had a look about his coat like he'd been sweating a bit, and there was noticeable sweat between his back hind legs. And the reports were coming through that he got really agitated in the tie-up stalls, and they paraded him around, I'd say about 6 laps or so. And he was noticeably agitated, and they had the earmuffs on him. But once Zach Purton got on him, was legged up, then he calmed down. And Zach said that's pretty much what he's like back in Sha Tin. They
Mm.
talk about will he get stirred up by a big crowd? Well, we'll get capacity 50,000, 50. He gets double that in Hong Kong on a big day, and their parade's bigger than the one at Randwick. So I don't think crowd noise issue will be a problem. But I mean, David Hayes insists the horse is spot on. And you've got to trust David. He's a senior trainer. He's had 2 stints in Hong Kong. He's travelled horses overseas before. If he says the horse is right, the videos you see coming out of his work at Canterbury, he looks spot on. And I've got to be honest, I had no issue with that trial. He wasn't there to to blow them away. He needed that hit out. He had a good blow after, and he's had that work since to have him topped off perfectly for Saturday's assignment.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Like, it was his first look around Randwick, wasn't it? It was an
Mm,
orientation. He was up against Group One performers that had gone around Randwick plenty of times before. So I think Zach had plenty more to offer if he wanted it. So yeah, I didn't have an issue as well. The only thing, like you mentioned, him being a little stirred up, but I guess that was part of the process of him checking out Randwick. You compare the crowd size between Sha Tin and Randwick. Is there a difference though in terms of the proximity of the crowd and also I'm not sure when Sweet Caroline breaks out, but anything like that in terms of the noise and the proximity of the crowd to the horses?
As far as Sweet Caroline's concerned, once the horses have moved out onto the track and they're going around to the gates, then they cue the music and they try and time it. Being a 1200-meter start, that's well away from the action, so the horses wouldn't be particularly stirred up by Neil Diamond. Jolly Star had a bit of experience of that last year, but no, that wouldn't be a big issue. And I'd say the noise at Sha Tin would be more intense than it is at Randwick in that parade area, because at Randwick it's all open. It's open space, whereas Sha Tin, it's sort of that amphitheatre effect, and when the crowd goes off, the noise really does echo. And it's quite often when I was working there and you're working on the TV, and you might have your head down in the form guide, and all of a sudden this big roar would go up from the crowd, and you'd quickly look out the window to see what's happened. The crowd would certainly let you know if a horse reared up or threw a jockey off, or something dramatic occurred.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of Hong Kong sprinters, you've called a bunch of good ones in your time at Sha Tin. Sacred Kingdom, Air of Velocity. I'm sure you could name a bunch of others. Air of Velocity, of course, ridden by Zach Purton as well.
Hmm.
What's it going to mean to you, Darren, to call the world's top-rated racehorse and a Hong Kong horse at that in now your hometown of Sydney in the world's richest race on turf?
Yeah, I guess spending 16 years there in Hong Kong, and I still do have a permanent residency card there if it was ever to be required again in the future. So there is still a sense of pride in Hong Kong. I certainly still keep up to date with matters that are going on there. So yeah, I would like to see the horse win, because it's brought so much to the race this year. But
Mm,
if he's not up for it on the occasion, or things go wrong, looking to who I think the other possible chances in the race, I'm starting to warm to this 3-year-old filly a bit since the draw came up. Tempted, she's
mm,
drawn barrier one, and I'm thinking she'll be three back the fence, probably right on the coattails of Marzu. Craig Williams put out a video clip yesterday of her last gallop at a Kiramar's property with a helmet cam on.
mm.
Oh, it's good work, really good work. And you got a good feel of it too. They gave the galloping companion a few lengths, and then it just went right up underneath it. And the good thing is you got audio on that, and you can hear how clean-winded horses are. She wasn't really
Right.
making a noise, and she was barely blowing as well. I think Tempted is quite good value around the $15 mark. And if my speed map's right, I think Brias is going to get a terrific run, and he's going out at $13. So I thought those two possibly could be the dangers. And let's not forget David Hayes. His three sons have a
Yeah.
live chance in the race with War Machine. And it won the Stradbroke back in May. And that hasn't been a bad form race for the Everest in previous years. But having said that, I think this is the strongest edition of the 9 runnings of the Everest. I think this is the best field we've had.
Yeah, certainly it feels like the build up is matching that as well. It just seems to get bigger and bigger each year, this race. So it sounds like you've got Ka Ying Rising on top,
Mm.
Tempted and Briaza in your trifecta, and maybe War Machine for your first fours. That's a whirlpool race as well, of course. So it's going to be interesting to see the dividends out there. Fixed odds in Australia, I've seen a bit of $1.50, $1.60, $1.70. During those rumours a few days ago, we got out to $2.53. That's 2 to 1 here in North America. But be interesting to see what happens Whirlpool when the Hong Kong punters pile in to back their superstar. It could be getting sort of around the 130, 140 mark. You never know, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people are forecasting. I don't think you'll see one better than 130 on the
Right.
Whirlpool. I think
Yeah.
120 is probably realistic. But to give you a proper indication, Tab, the official bookmakers of racing here in Sydney, have got Ka Ying Rising at 170. They were 150 earlier in the week, 170. So it looks like that's sort of the price they're working at. But it could also be a situation that punters are going to realise on the day, oh, we can't back this on the tote, and they might start winding the price in just purely from a point of view, why bet 170 when punters will probably still take 150?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, either or. It's a 50% or 70% return on your money, isn't it? Better than bank interest if he gets the job done. Um, all right, Darren. Of course, here in North America, for the first time, Fox Sports One is covering the Everest, and it's also being broadcast worldwide on DAZN. When Racing New South Wales put out a media release a couple of days ago, saying that the potential reach of this race could be 560 million people worldwide. Does that make you stop and think just how many people are going to be listening to you?
Yeah, I did look at that figure at first. I thought it was 5 billion. With that many zeros there. Yeah, it's pleasing to know that there is that type of interest in horse racing around the globe. But whether it's 560 million or 56 people, to me, I guess it's pretty much the same.
You, nothing different in terms of your preparation for a race like this than any other race?
No, I guess the idea is just to be well prepared, stay calm, don't get too carried away. And I have to say, the singing of this Sweet Caroline, it really does get you pumped up, because every year they've done it, the crowd just love it. And quite often I'll just sort of open the window and just hang my head out a bit, waiting for them to get to the gates to soak in the atmosphere. They designed this Everest to market it to a younger crowd here in Sydney, and it's just been such an amazing success. And now they're talking about, I mean, it's 50,000 because that is the absolute capacity, and they've built extra facilities there to accommodate the couple of extra thousand. Now they're looking at trying to follow the Kentucky Derby mode of going infield as well. So that could be something to look forward to in years to come.
Well, that would be awesome. And I can tell you the infield at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby Day is a sight to behold. It's generally what you might refer to as the most cost effective tickets, I guess, to get into the
Yeah.
infield, Darren. So
I'm always in awe of the Kentucky Derby. I think I really would love to go there. It's sort of a bucket list item when I just see the crowd. The only downside is it seems every year it rains.
I've been to the last six. I think it's rained on two of the last six. So maybe I've got a little bit
Oh,
lucky.
okay, right,
But
okay.
you don't feel it. We had Gay Waterhouse there last year. She was loving it. She had her umbrella and running around, bouncing around from place to place. She was having a good time out at morning works and all that sort of thing. So
Mm,
no, we'd love to have you over one year, Darren. Let me know if you're on your way, or even just come over and visit us at Del Mar for the World Championships this year in a couple of weeks' time. You might be in the middle of your spring carnival there.
yeah, I guess typically my travelling season is May, June, July. That's a good
Okay.
time to head off overseas.
Well, Saratoga and Del Mar and the summer meets. You can join Maddie Hill at Saratoga.
That sounds good. I'll just make sure I don't make any negative remarks about DJT on any social media, and I should be sweet for getting in.
For our Hong Kong audience that's watching this, that obviously remembers you from over the years and all your great, fantastic calls, do you have a favorite call from your time in Hong Kong, or even just a favorite race?
I had a great affiliation with the big black horse Able Friend towards the end. He was having great clashes with designs on Rome, and I was quite happy with a lot of my calls there of Able Friend, because I was sort of cheering him home on a number of occasions. And when I called his last group win on Derby Day 2015, that was my last day of calling. And my out tag was, gee, I'm going to miss calling you, buddy. And sort of felt a little bit emotional as well.
Here he comes, Beauty Flame in front. Able Friend gets the run and quickly races to the lead. Goldfunner's running on the outside. He's different class, Able Friend. Pulls away to win the Queen's Silver Jubilee from Beauty Flame and Goldfun. Isn't he great to watch? Oh, I'm going to miss calling you, buddy. That was awesome.
And I was doing my best behind the scenes to get him to come straight down to Sydney for the Doncaster, which they were considering, but it never eventuated. So, yeah, that's a horse I certainly have fond memories of.
Ah, nice. Well, through the magic of television, we will have just seen that replay as well and heard your dulcet tones. And we're looking forward to hearing those dulcet tones again on Saturday, Friday night, North American time, when you call the world's richest race on turf, the $20 million, the Everest. You've called every one since 2017, haven't you, Darren?
Yes, yeah, they can put that on my tombstone.
Well, we can't wait. I think the world is really excited about this, and from a Hong Kong perspective, we will be rooting for Ka Ying Rising. Let's hope the Hong Kong superstar can get the job done.
I think it'll be a case at the 200s. Zach will open him up and say, "Show the Aussies what you've got."
We're looking forward to your call. Thanks heaps for your time, Darren.
Cheers, thanks, Andrew.
Well, from Darren in Sydney, we now head to Hong Kong, where the Hong Kong Jockey Club's head of Commingling, Sam Nati, joins us. A very well-dressed Sam Nati. Great to see you.
Australians everywhere.
Yeah, it has been a very, very Australian-focused show, particularly with the Everest at Royal Randwick. And of course, Sam, we're just talking to Darren about it, some incredible hype around this weekend's the Everest, all around the world as well. How do you anticipate that hype will be reflected when it comes to wagering dollars through the World Pool?
Well, it's fever pitch. There's no doubt they love horse racing in Hong Kong, and they love their champions. And 14 runs into his career. Not sure whether we call him a champion yet, but he's certainly on the road to that. And there's been some wonderful champions in Hong Kong. But in terms of your specific question, the wagering, there'll be plenty of it. The locals will want to be part of the story, so there'll be that. There'll be plenty in Hong Kong who take the form very seriously and will be happy to bet against him if they think that it's warranted, or that they can find value outside of the favourite. But it will be very heavily slanted towards him for many different reasons. And then, of course, you've got the international component of the turnover. And from the experience that we had with Romantic Warrior running overseas, particularly the Cox Plate at Moonee Valley, those big-time gamblers who tend to come in late, depending on where they sit in the market and what the liquidity looks like, will ultimately determine how short he is. But certainly a side story, the World Pool price for Ka Ying Rising. I've done 2 or 3 interviews around this topic, and it seems to be fascinating many people.
Well, yeah, and so I've got to ask you, like, what's your prediction? I mean, currently in Australia, in terms of fixed odds, we've been seeing Ka Ying Rising's price kind of bounce around the 1.6 mark. He has been 1.5. I think when those rumours were circulating a few days ago that he was going to come out of the race, he was out to $3 on Betfair. That's 2-1 North American speak. What price do you anticipate he will be when the race jumps on Saturday afternoon at Royal Randwick in the World Pool?
It's very difficult to predict because, like I say, if some of those those bigger wagering syndicates who come in late, if they oppose Ka Ying Rising, and we can't know what their models look like, but let's just assume that they oppose Ka Ying Rising, we can probably see him start to get closer to those fixed odds that you're talking about. But if they don't oppose him, and in the win market at least they're neutral, then he probably stays extremely short. There'll be definitely a situation where early in the day, because in Hong Kong the culture is very different, especially around tote now, you know the environment in Australia where the tote is not what it once used to be. There's little turnover early in the day with so many races, of course, as well. Where in Hong Kong, it'll just be the one card that is presented to the customers in the afternoon, so they'll start betting very early. And his price early on, it's going to be 1.1 or 1.2. So how much that budges will depend on how much international money comes for those other runners.
In terms of the Hong Kong horse players, and you did mention the syndicates, but for your just general Hong Kong horse player, do they tend to just overbet their stars because they simply want to be a part of the whole experience and hold a ticket?
They want to be part of the story. You're absolutely right. It runs probably a little bit deeper than that. I think that they're very biased towards our horses, and perhaps justifiably so. They see Hong Kong horses as going out there and flying the flag, and so they like to get behind that, which is nice. But I would also say, and a lot of Hong Kong customers, that they like to think of themselves as being, very serious form students as well. They take it very seriously. They're online. They're watching replays. They're looking at form. They still have their the old style newspaper form guide. So they take the betting very seriously. But in a case of like the Everest, there will definitely be a very large component betting for the story, and not necessarily more heart than mind, let's say.
Right. Yep. Now you touched on Romantic Warrior and the 2023 Cox Plate just earlier, and as far as I know, that is currently a world pool record on an Australian race. Do you anticipate that record will be broken on Saturday?
It's funny. I love talking about turnover because there's so many factors that impact it. One of them is that the Hong Kong time, the Everest is actually on quite early in the afternoon. That's a little bit of a negative. The Cox Plate's usually on later in the card. And then even an hour or two can make a difference. And certainly in Hong Kong, it's a very nuanced market, but later in the evening we tend to get higher turnover like for like than say the Australia stuff during the day. And again, sort of repeating a little bit, but you rely on what the syndicates are going to do with that final flurry of money. But I think that's definitely a benchmark. I'd be thinking somewhere around that turnover mark is the conservative. And perhaps if things get a bit more aggressive, it might get 5 or 10 million Hong Kong dollars above that.
Okay, so would that then put it into a realm of potentially being a world record on a world pool race?
Yes, that's right. So I think just over 60 million is the current record. I think the Cox Plate is third in line, something like that, 61 or just under. That would put it in the realm of now. And just keep in mind with World Pool, we there's a couple of different numbers that you might see. There's the World Pool bet types turnover, and that's what we're talking about now. The figures that you mentioned were from the Cox Plate on the 5 World Pool bet types, but there, of course, are other bet types in Hong Kong that aren't part of the World Pool, which will deliver additional turnover. And of course, in Australia, they have bet types that sit separately to the World Pool as well. So if you collect all of that together, you're starting to talk about 75 or 80 million in turnover. But back to your question, the World Pool bet types, I think the over or under, if you're setting a mark, it's probably about 60 million.
Got it. Okay, I like it. That should be a good. That should be a wagering type if we can create one somewhere.
Well, it should be. Would you take the overs or the unders? Just
I'm going to take the overs. I just think the interest in this has been off the charts. This race, there's people talking about it everywhere. I was saying to Darren, I've got jockeys at Santa Anita on Saturday afternoon talking about it between races and the trial. The controversial trial, whether or not it was a good or not, run or not. So yeah, I'm going to go the overs on the 60 million. We can have a side wager if you like after this.
I didn't say I was on the unders. I just.
Speaking about the evolution of the World Pool, Sam, well, I've got you. Obviously, we're targeting a North American audience here with this show and engaging them in Hong Kong racing and the World Pool. We've got the Breeders' Cup World Championships coming up at Del Mar in a couple of weeks, an event that you attended last year at Del Mar. I know it's a slightly different scenario in the fact that the handle on the World Championships from the local tote here in North America is quite substantial. But is there a chance in the future that the Breeders' Cup World Championships could form in some way or other part of the World Pool, and also maybe the Kentucky Derby as well?
So there's a couple of layers to this. First of all, Breeders' Cup has been very proactive and positive in talking about attaching World Pool to the Breeders' Cup. There's a bit of background maybe that I can touch on. First of all, we have very limited quota that we can actually bring into Hong Kong in terms of simulcast racing. So last year we took 2 races from Breeders' Cup only. This year we're actually being able to take 5 because we've had our quota increased, and for next season, 26-27, it will get increased again. So the plan will be to take all 9 of the Breeders' Cup races on what would be our Sunday morning, but the Saturday card in North America. And we talked this year about even the possibility of the 5 races we're taking being World Pool. Now, it would be slightly different to the World Pool that you'll see at Randwick. I mean, the customer won't necessarily notice anything different, but we host the pool in Hong Kong, even though it's an Australian race for the Everest on Saturday. But given the dynamics of the turnover in the US being much higher than what it will be in Hong Kong, we would outbound commingle into them. Certainly nothing new about that concept, but it would be slightly different from the way that we've operated World Pool in the past. But I think that's a good thing. It's an evolution, and it would further increase the pools in America. And I think in a lot of ways, yes, there would be more liquidity, and I think it's just the way. I think what the World Pool does outside of wagering is just promote that collaboration. It's no secret that racing has its challenges, but by working together, and Druid Breeders' Cup is really a benchmark for this. Wanting to work with these international jurisdictions and racing operators to come together and collaborate. And I think that part's just as important.
Nice. Yeah. How did you enjoy your time at the Breeders' Cup, by the way, last year?
I wished I was there about a month earlier from a weather perspective, but nothing to do with the racing. The racing was great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're looking forward to some more fantastic racing coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We've got Forever Young, who, of course, the Hong Kong audience would be very familiar with, coming over to contest what's going to be an incredible Breeders' Cup classic. So, if the World Pool was involved in that one, I think would be smashing some records. It would be unreal. But speaking of champions, it's all about Ka Ying Rising this weekend. Champions to be, as you pointed out earlier. We can't quite call him a champion yet, even though Timeform has him rated as the top racehorse in the world. What does this horse mean, Sam, to Hong Kong and the Hong Kong Jockey Club?
It's a great question, because the dynamics of what the racing industry is in Hong Kong are very different to the UK or France or Australia even. And why is because most of the horses that race here are geldings. We don't have a breeding industry, and that's quite unique. You look at the powerhouses around the world. Japan's the top of my list. There's a breeding industry. Australia has a breeding industry. The UK, of course, all those jurisdictions. We don't. We import all of the horses. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that that most of the horses that run here are geldings, which means that they're not retired early to go to a stud career, and the fans can follow them through their career. Golden 60 raced for 6 seasons. Romantic Warrior still going, following something similar. So when I said before, let's not be too hasty around Ka Ying Rising, it was really in the context of Hong Kong. Certainly in Australia or the UK, a horse could have much fewer than 14 starts and be considered a champion and whistled off to stud. In Hong Kong, there's a different environment, and people love that. People love being able to follow a horse through many seasons of their career, and Golden 60, Romantic Warrior, great examples of that, and hopefully Ka Ying Rising has many more seasons for the same reason.
Yeah, and I bet you everybody's looking forward to Ka Ying Rising coming back and continuing his Hong Kong campaign towards International Day in December. Wow. He'll definitely get a hero's welcome if he comes back as the Everest winner, I'm sure. Well, Sam, thank you so much for all of that wonderful insight into the World Pool. Good luck this weekend. Hope it all goes well. I'm sure it's going to be an absolute wagering behemoth. So I'm on the overs, 60,000.
Well, on Sunday evening, when all those rumours about Ka Ying Rising were floating around, I took the unders, but we'll have to reassess.
Enjoy the race, mate. We'll see you soon.
Yes, nice to chat to you. Thank you.
We really appreciate our guests, Sam Nati and Darren Flindell, coming on the show. What do you think, Alex? Are we looking at a World Pool record for an individual race here? Romantic Warrior's 2023 Cox Plate, as I discussed with Sam, is currently the Australian record. Are you under or over 60 million Hong Kong dollars on this race on Friday night?
So I guess the question is, because remember Romantic Warrior lost the Turnbull and he kind of didn't finish off his run that strongly. So it created maybe a bit of a better betting opportunity, or a perception of a better betting opportunity. Now, I think with the World Pool growing so much and the word getting out so much over the last 8 months, 12 months, the Hong Kong horse is traveling, Hong Kong's going to back him. I'm going to go with the over on this, actually.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take the over. I think Hong Kong is just gonna support their super horse, like we know that they do. And is he bettable? If you're a punter, you're probably looking to beat him. If you're gonna beat him, this is probably the opportunity to take that shot. I just don't know if anyone in here is actually good enough to beat him. But I do think we're gonna get the over on the World Pool record for money bet in a race.
Yeah, you might get the over on the record, but certainly the unders on Ka Ying Rising's price. It'd be interesting to see what price he is when the gates scratch back.
How many lengths is he going to win by? We did this. We did this before. Remember, we did like a 7.5 when he ran one of the grade ones over in Hong Kong. You think he's going to brain him, donkey lick him, or is he going to? It's going to be a close, tight finish.
That was one of my wild predictions of season 2024-25. Remember, when we wrapped up the last season, and I had him at over 7 lengths, I think it was. So I'm not so sure he's going to win by that much anymore, but I think he's going to win by a good couple of lengths.
It's fun because all the media, and I don't know whether it's just because the tote system and how you have the different bookmakers in Australia, but the amount of FUD and the noise that has just come out about this horse, like, oh, his trial was bad. Oh, he's on. It's really wild. And is that factual evidence, or is it people trying to boost a price somewhere else along the line? I just wish I had that Tim Carroll. Can't even speak. I wish I had Tim's price on that horse at 9-2. Oh my God, that's a price for him.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, well, of course, the Everest, not the only big race this weekend. The Group 2 Sha Tin Trophy looks a cracker with the likes of My Wish, Voyage Bubble, and defending champion Galaxy Patch. Alex, at the time of us recording right now, the field's still not officially out. We wanted to get this show out nice and early because the Everest is Friday night. But we might do a special standalone preview and put it out on social. But any early thoughts on this race based on the entries?
I just think it's going to be really interesting with the weight disparity with Voyage Bubble to the rest of them. And I know guys can't ride their normal mounts. So we got like Luke's not going to be able to ride My Wish. I believe he can't make weight with the disparity. So I think draw and weights are going to be really interesting to see who's on who for this race. Yeah. But remember last year, Galaxy Patch with the big weight disparity got over the top of Voyage Bubble, and then Voyage Bubble went on to have an absolutely insane historic season. Also, it's going to be interesting too, right? If the rumors are true that Voyage Bubble is going to go to the Hong Kong Cup in December and take on Romantic Warrior, J-Mac's going to obviously have to make a choice. You'd imagine he would stick with Romantic Warrior, but does this create an opportunity for Poon to stay on Voyage Bubble and potentially have himself a nice horse in the Hong Kong Cup there? So I think all that stuff is going to be interesting storylines, and I can't wait to see who draws and who's aboard who, and really dive into this race. And I think we should do a little special one-off episode here tomorrow, Brownie. What about you?
All right. Well, yeah, I was going to say, speaking of Romantic Warrior, he returned to the trials earlier this week, gearing up for his return in the Jockey Club Cup on November 23. Huey looked to have a nice hold on him. What did you make of the trial, Alex?
Yeah, I loved it. And I think he's improving each trial. He looked great at Happy Valley and super strong on the gallop out down that short straight there. And he looked even better over at Sha Tin. And one of the peaches on the outside there was under a full drive, and Romantic Warrior was just cantering super easily alongside him. So I think those are all positive signs, and he looks like he hasn't really lost much off his little injury recovery. So it's something we like to see. I know the Hong Kong racing fans are excited to see their big super horse back. And like HKIR again is setting up to be an absolute superstar show again with likes of Voyage Bubble, Romantic Warrior, Ka Ying Rising. It's what we love about Hong Kong racing, Brownie.
Yeah, Huey might be hoping that J-Mac goes for Voyage Bubble instead of Romantic Warrior.
You can go over and pencil in the entry form and change jockeys real quick.
Oh, he's doing a good job keeping the seat warm at the trials, Huey. Great to see your mate Vincent Ho get a treble at Happy Valley on Wednesday too, as he's been sort of making his way back from injury.
Yeah, up and down season so far. It's so tough when you're not getting the rides and you weren't there to begin with and book these horses, but he's starting to hit his stride. And in hockey terms, we call that the natural hat trick, Brownie. 3 in a row, all by yourself, no interruptions. So you got one on the front end, one coming from behind, and then one stalking the pace. Yeah. Any way you like it. He got it done out there yesterday. So love to see it. And again, that pushes him up more towards the top of the standings, the local riders. And it just creates more intrigue as we head closer to December and the IJC, which you've been hyping up. Maybe the Italian Panther getting over there. We get Vincent Hoback, a former champion. We got Pundon, he's a champion at it as well. It's going to be wild. And I'd imagine we're not going to see Ryan Moore this year with him still recovering from the leg injury. How about his son getting his first ride last week, finishing third on a Friday at, was it Kempton? Toby.
Crazy, isn't it? I wouldn't even think he was old enough to have a son that old, Ryan Moore, but God, amazing, isn't it?
17. I got a picture of him running on the track when Mendelssohn won the Breeders' Cup there with hugging Ryan on the horse.
Unbelievable.
We're getting up there, Brownie. We're getting up there.
We are indeed. All right. Well, it's been a big show. We're finally there. The next time we do this show, Ka Ying Rising will have run in the Everest, so we can start turning our attention then to other things, including IJC and HKIR and all the great lead-up races to International Week as well. But Alex, as always, thank you so much for your time, and enjoy Friday night. We'll have to be up nice late watching the races on Friday night at Randwick, and Saturday night Sha Tin this weekend.
Yep, 10:15 Pacific time, West Coast. So get on it.
That's it. 10:15 p.m. for the Everest at Royal Randwick, live on Fox 1 too this year for the first time.
Very cool.
Ever. Yeah, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, you can watch through ADWs, through FanDuel TV, every other way that you watch it. Racing and sports, plenty of ways to watch the Everest here in the United States or Canada. Well, that's all we have time for on this week's edition of the Hong Kong Racing Show. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck to Ka Ying Rising this weekend, and we'll see you next week on the show. Thank you.